Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am super stoked. We finally have made this happen. I'm joined by the amazing Sean Chandler. Sean, how you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, like you said, we're finally making this happen. You messaged me 2 years ago, and we were trying to schedule it, but it was like right as I started doing a lot of conventions. I was like, oh, maybe in a little bit. And then over the last several months, a bunch of my friends, even people I've met at different film festivals over the last few months during all these travels, started appearing on your channel, and they were sharing the link. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to respond to that DM from 2 years ago. So here we
Well,
are. We finally made it happen.
I'm glad you did, and that just shows, guys, how busy things can be. Because I know a lot of you have been asking when Sean going to be on here because of the mutual friends we have, and here it is. It's finally happening. So, for those of you that don't know Sean, I would like for you to get to know him a little bit. He runs the amazing channel Sean Chandler Talks About, where you talk about movies, everything. You do reviews, but obviously, when you're doing such an impactful YouTube channel, and you do not just horror, you do a little bit of everything. But what got you wanting to start a YouTube channel and wanting to do this for a living?
So I've just always been someone that went to the internet to talk about my interests. So whenever I was in middle school and we got our trial disc with 5 hours of internet on America Online AOL, I went on and it was like, oh, wait, you can look up on movies on the internet. And I remember like when Independence Day came out, and at the bottom of the poster they had independenceday.com movie or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it was. And I was, wow, a website for a movie. Wow. And I've just always done that. I started my first movie webpage back in 1998. It was a Jackie Chan fan webpage. And I saw Rumble in the Bronx and was like, well, this is incredible. And started going to the internet to talk about movies. And so I've just always done that. And then back, 14, 15 years ago, people started reviewing movies. And I started watching some of those channels being like, I think I could do that. I bet I could do that. I'd have fun doing that. And I had several false starts before it kind of clicked. And they're all on my main YouTube channel, but it was before it's called Sean Chandler Talks About, and just started fiddling around with it. And then summer 2016, Lady Ghostbusters came out. Went on a date night to go. Actually, the ironic twist of all of this, my first video on Sean Chandler Talks About was posted 8 years ago today. I've been too busy. I haven't actually made a post about it,
Hey.
but today's the 8 year anniversary of my YouTube channel. So 8 years ago, yesterday, my wife and I went to go see Lady Ghostbusters, and the whole internet was like, this movie ruined my childhood. Oh, wait, if you didn't like the movie, it's because you're a sexist. I mean, it's just like the dumbest version of a conversation about movies. So I saw it and I was like, let me just post a normal review that's not filled with crazy. And Sean Chandler Talks About was born. And at that time, I was going through some personal stuff. I was unemployed. And so I just had more free time to dedicate at the beginning of it. And I just needed some escape from life. And it clicked. It stuck. And I'm just kind of the person that at the end of the day, I like something to exist because I worked that day. And so I've always just had hobbies where I created things. And YouTube um creates a place where you can do that, and it also rewards you where you can see views, likes, any of these different metrics to be like to motivate you to keep going. And luckily enough, when I started, I had a couple videos take off, and uh I stuck with it, and it changed the trajectory of my life.
Right. And I'm glad you did, for one. And the fact that it started with the Ghostbusters, the female version, which, like you said, when that came out, all the stuff that came along with it was so fucking ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
both sides of the spectrum.
yeah.
Me personally, not a huge fan of the film, but it has nothing to do with the female cast. I think that's one of the bright spots. I think that the lack of trying to be horror is what got me. Because even like the first Ghostbusters, yes, it had comedic elements. You had your
Mhm,
Saturday Night Live cast, but there was still real, genuine,
mhm.
scary moments throughout that film. And that's what I look for in a Ghostbusters film.
Yeah, well, it plays like a grounded film that has funny characters, but it feels like we're in a drama where ghosts are showing up and jokes are happening, and you watch Lady Ghostbusters and it has the tone, the look, the vibe of a comedy
Right.
that has ghosts in it. So there's no real scares, there's no creep factor. And so I think they just that the director Paul Feig, he's one of those, the internet hates him because you did Lady Ghostbusters, you said this about the fans. Prior to that movie, he'd done a bunch of really funny comedies. And
Mhm.
that I really enjoy. But then, yeah, his Ghostbusters turns out that wasn't the right direction to go.
No, it wasn't. And that's always been my crux with the film. Like I said, it has nothing to do with the cast. I don't care about anything like that. But if you're going to entertain me, you're going to entertain me. That movie, I was just, maybe it was my fault because I was looking for something different. I was hoping for
Yeah.
more of a horror type of a movie in the film. So, um, now we talked about how today's your 8th year anniversary on your channel, man.
Yes.
Congratulations. Like that is absolutely amazing. You've gotten to do a lot of amazing things because of the channel. And obviously I know
Mhm.
the family is still going good. We're so lucky to see like you and your kid going and doing cons together and stuff like that. And like that's amazing, man. And having 3 kids myself, I'm this weekend we're going to GhoulieCon in Kentucky, and my daughters are
Mhm.
going with me, and my oldest daughter's doing a panel with me about the short film we have coming out. But what's it like? Because I don't get to talk about this too much with a lot of my guests,
Mhm.
but what's it like being a father running a YouTube channel and being able to include your children and your family on that type of stuff?
Uh, wait, it's kind of fun. The nice advantage of it is when you have a job that every kid wants to have. That, when you're an accountant, many of your kids might turn out to be accountants, but you're not in elementary school thinking, I want to be an accountant someday. Every kid under 18 wants to be a YouTuber. And so inherently, it's just a little bit more fun that it's something that you can bring them along for the adventure. And then everybody likes movies. So they get to kind of join in on that adventure. And, I'm kind of the ranking guy. I do watch franchises, then I rank the franchises. And so then, kind of as part of that, there's a built-in system that kind of organically, I'm like, hey kids, these are the franchises I need to watch. So then, we got a Ghostbusters movie earlier this year. So I was like, hey kids, let's watch all of the Ghostbusters movies. And they'd seen them before, but we rewatched all the Ghostbusters movies. They're old enough now. We got a new Alien movie coming out next month, and so we're
Yes.
like, my kids are going to watch all the Alien movies. They haven't already seen several of them already, but it's an opportunity. Is that's fun. Um,
Right.
some of it's a little bit interesting because you have a big enough following that, um, to a batch of my fans, I'm a celebrity, and that modern day kids view YouTubers the way that me and you view TV stars from
Right.
when we were growing up. They don't realize they just live in the suburbs in a totally normal town in Texas. Like, I don't have an extravagant lifestyle. I just have a cool job.
Right.
But so then there's people that that they're like, what's it like to have a dad that is famous? What's it like to have a dad? Well, I still tell them what to do. I ground them. I take away their technology. I play video games with them. We take adventures to the creek. Like, this is normal. I just happen to work from home and have a job that's more interesting. But my son, when he's got into middle school, we let him start his own YouTube channel. And so then he's always asking me, is this a good number? Is this a good number? Or was this? How's this? It was like, hey man, you're in the 6th grade. You're doing fantastic. You're way well.
Right.
First off, the technology didn't exist when I was your age, but the fact that you have a thing that you're actively working on, growing towards, that you're paying attention to analytics, I kind of wish you put a little of this energy into maybe some of your schoolwork. But at the same time, I get it, man. Let me help you
Right.
with it.
And what's great about that is like you brought up a point that I always think is so funny when your kids' friends come over and like, dude, it must be awesome when your dad is like that. And they're like, no, he's my dad. Like if
Right.
he was your dad, trust me, you wouldn't think it was cool either. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still think he's a dick. Like he still punishes
Yeah.
me.
Right. Right. Right.
my, my son is 16. So like, his friends would be like, dude, that's so dope. And he's like, it's still my dad. Like it's
Yeah.
really at the end of the
It's
day,
it's
he's just
the
my dad.
the mystique is taken away, and I'm just a guy. But I guess the other fun side to it is, they're old enough now that Chloe, in particular, my 10-year-old, she likes to give her opinions, and she's getting better at it, and she's getting more articulate. And so when you watch a movie that's aimed for kids, well, 42-year-old man reviewing Despicable Me 4, like the comments on her, like, dude, you're a grown man. What did you expect? When my 10-year-old, whatever she has to say, even if it's just a couple sentences, that's a useful perspective. And it
Right.
kind of gets her into that, like, even kind of training her on how to watch something critically and take a thought from your head and put it into words.
Right.
And that's a skill set that a lot of adults don't have the best skills at. And even developing that in a fun way by joining in on my YouTube videos just a little bit.
See, we took our 11-year-old daughter, Chloe, to go see Tarot, and same thing. Like for us, it was like, oh, this was just a generic horror movie. But for her, who
Mhm.
is someone that young, hasn't seen a lot of horror movies, she was like, that was awesome. What are you talking about?
Right.
So to get that
Exactly.
type of perspective, I'm able to say in a review, like, look, this wasn't for me, but I know for a younger kid,
Mhm.
this is their first time watching it. They might really enjoy it because they haven't seen a lot of these tropes beat to death, and this is
Mhm.
something that they're really
Right.
going to be into. So you're right. When you get that child's perspective on these things, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing to be able
Mhm.
to understand where their brain is and where our brains were when horror started for us and seeing
Mhm.
those things back in the day.
Mhm. Well, and even on some of them, even realizing some of these, there, I didn't take my kids. They haven't seen Megan yet, but there was
Mhm.
a big conversation in the horror community of like, oh, I mean, they made it PG-13. They took the edge off of it. It was toothless. I really wanted this to be this gritty. It's like it got really solid reviews. It did great at the box office, and it was an on ramp for a new generation.
Mhm.
Or like Five Nights at Freddy's. Like
Yep.
my son is obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's. Like that's his go to bed movie. And it's like, well, you can't do that when your little sister's in the room. You can't do that when your 5-year-old sister's in the room. You freak her out. But that's his on ramp.
Yeah.
And I totally get it why if you're 40, if you're 25, if you're 25 and you're obsessed with the Five Nights at Freddy's lore and you're like, this is why it disappointed you, I understand.
Right.
But I can see like the movie that makes my son most excited about movies is Five Nights at Freddy's. That matters.
Right. Well, I mean, look at when we were kids. You probably had 40 and 50-year-old guys when we were kids talking about The Gate and Monster Squad and shit like that. Gremlins, the way we're talking about Megan, Five Nights at
Mhm.
Freddy's, Tarot, these what we would call, gateway horror movies.
Yeah.
They've always had that, like they've always had these movies that would border
Hmm.
that line on
Hmm.
being horror and kid friendly. So you could introduce children into
Hmm.
it and, not throw them into the deep end right now with Saw X,
Right,
like,
right. Exactly. And that's just say that, like, okay, you have Megan, a movie that it has just like the dance moves, it has the quotes in it and stuff that's very TikTokable, it's very memeable, it fits right into the modern zeitgeist, and it's PG-13, so it opens the doors for all these people to join in. It's the starting point for a bunch of new horror fans. Like,
right.
I'm not, like you said, not going to sit down and watch the Saw movies with my kids. But when my wife leaves town, I'll show him Megan when I can.
Yes, dude. And I'm glad you brought that stuff up, man, because it is really nice. Because, like I said, yeah, we get a little frustrated sometimes. We want it to be a little darker. Like that's what we're into. But
Sure,
as a father,
Megan would have
that
been more
father's
fun for me if we're getting heads chopped off or whatever.
right.
However, it's not just made for me. For horror as a whole, it's a bigger win if it brings all these TikTok generation in, of the TikTok generation in. Sorry, I cut you
And,
off.
and that's important. It really is because, like you said, like one of my big things is you have all these people that want to come and watch horror in October, and you have the horror fans that are like, "Oh, we watch horror all year round." It's like, don't do that. Invite them
Yeah,
in, teach them.
right.
Like, yeah, we still got movies we can watch. We got Thanksgiving. You can watch on. We got movies we can watch there. We got
Mm-hmm.
Krampus to watch on Christmas. You
Mm-hmm.
guys should check that out too. Keep the party going after October. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, if you guys aren't already, I have all of Sean's links down in the description. I have his YouTube channel, his social media links. Please make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell. Make sure you're following him on social media to stay up with everything he has coming up. So, like I said, I know you're very busy with the channel. I know cons are super crazy for you, but in order to do what you're doing now, Sean,
Mm-hmm.
horror had to start for you somewhere.
Okay.
So now I would like to go back to the past and
Okay.
talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Sean, the first horror movie you watched was
So for me, I don't have a clean answer on that one. So it'll be a little bit of a mixed genre answer. And
okay,
I'm not including. I'm kind of skipping over the Ghostbusters and the Gremlins
sure.
that are more kind of that Amblin PG range of them. So I grew up. Parents didn't at all introduce me to horror. That was not my household at all. My grew up in well, still very much a church family, but I grew up and my mom had a book like Demons in the Toy Chest and stuff. And she was like, "This look, Mighty Mouse, he did drugs," and that's kind of the house. So my mom wasn't taking me to horror films, though she let me go to a bunch of R-rated Van Damme films later on. So my on ramp was whatever was playing late night on TBS or TNT. So
Hmm.
I don't remember the exact timeline on it, but it's a combination in there. of the ones that seem to be playing a bunch were Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, Part 7, New Blood. But watching them all out of order, I didn't know which one was which.
Right.
I didn't know like which plot points went into it. I was like, I'd start watching part 6 and I was like, all right, when's the witch lady that has the powers that's gonna pull down the power lines? What's that gonna happen? But so that was like late at night, being like, oh, I can watch something. Like, oh, Jason's on, and watching it wherever it's at in the movie. So that was one vein of my introduction. The other one that was a full movie that like stuck with me was Predator. And that was the first time I watched a movie and like got freaked out a little bit. So old enough to really want to watch it, but young enough to be like, that was the most intense movie I've ever watched. So watched it and was like so heart pounding, edge of my seat, like, oh wow. And it ends and it's like 2 a.m. It's like, I gotta go cuddle with my mom. So ran in bed and cuddle with my mom or whatever.
Yes.
It was one of so that one might have come later, but that's the one that I feel like there's a story for it of like, I watched Predator and went, oh man, movies can make your heart race.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about that is like, hey, mom, I think we can add a demon to that book you were talking about. I think I know
Mhm.
somebody that would fit in
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Since Predator was the first one you watched all the way through on your own, do
yeah.
you mind if that's the one we really dive into?
Let's
Is that
let's
okay?
unpack it. Let's go for it.
Awesome. First off, let me say, hell yes. You're classifying Predator as a horror movie. That's a hill I will die on. I'm very happy about that. So,
I don't.
like,
It's just kind of that's the thing that's so tricky about horror is that it's one of those genres that combines with other genres, and it's like there. I just don't know that there's a reason to gatekeep. Like Long Legs came out a week ago, and the people, well, that's not really a horror film. It's like like you. This movie has fantastic reviews, and it's doing fantastic. Just take the win. Just take
right.
the win. What are you doing?
See, and that's the thing for me is I've always felt like horror more than a genre is how something makes you feel. Horror is the hardest thing
Yeah,
to lock down for me.
right.
Um, what makes a comedy? It's got to make me laugh. What makes an action movie? There's got to be, chase sequences and
Mhm.
heart pounding moments. And, what makes a drama? Make me feel something. What makes a horror? I don't fucking know. Scare me.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
and it's really hard to make that decision of this is horror, this isn't. And I've always said Predator is absolutely a horror movie. It's very terrifying. The thought of being alone in the woods with that creature.
Hmm.
I mean, look what he did
Right,
to those guys that are trained killers. What the hell is he gonna do to me?
right.
So, do you remember about how old you were when you had seen Predator for the first time?
I mean, I would guess we're in that tween age. I would guess. Um, yeah, probably like sixth grade. I would guess.
Yeah. Well, and still, like I said, that's when you're really, you're also looking up to guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Hmm.
Carl
Hmm.
Weathers. Like these are people you look up to,
That's.
and you get the moment of man arms coming together and
Hmm.
how, like that's yes, I'm ready to go pump some
Hmm.
iron and take a protein
Uh-huh.
shake,
Uh-huh.
brother. I'm ready to go. So,
So
at
that
that
was like
age, no, go ahead.
for me, my mom, like I said, little bit of that protectiveness in there, and so I'm growing up all throughout elementary school. Go to the video store, like, who's this Arnold guy? Who's this Stallone guy? Who's this guy? And then get into middle school, and like I start staying up a little bit later, like, wait, I can just go watch whatever's on TV. She's not there. Oh, this is that one with Arnold. What? We're in the jungle. What's going on? It's kind of that exact thing of these guys. I'd always wanted to watch the movie, put on the Arnold movie, and all of a sudden it's just going crazy. And like it's intense in a way that I
Wow.
had not experienced a movie like that. Um, and just kind of independent from that, like of all the Arnold movies, adore Arnold.
Mhm.
That's the one that I don't really even think of as an Arnold movie.
Right?
Like I put it in this other category where the movie itself is able to transcend Arnold, which is a big ask because he's such a big persona and
Right?
he's so watchable. And that's the movie where he's fantastic in it, but the movie and the experience and the immersiveness
Yes.
wins out over Arnold. That's impressive.
That's something you could hang a gold medal on because I agree
Mhm.
with you. These other movies, you think of them as Arnold movies. This
Mhm.
I think of as a Predator movie,
Mhm.
and like I said, you got Carl Weathers, Jesse the Body Ventura. Like you have a great cast. But when I think
Mhm.
about this movie, they get put on the back burner because of how fantastic the whole movie is. So,
Mhm.
um, And again, Predator, something very important to a lot of us horror fans, and still to this day, very effective. Whether we're giving quotes from it or
Get to the chopper! You one ugly motherfucker.
whatever, but what scene would you say it was that affected you the most?
It was kind of that relentlessness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the point where you hit the turning point in the movie of like, there's no escape is was it Billy on the bridge where they're running and he turns around with a knife and he's cutting himself with a knife, and you're like, the whole team's descended. We're just
Yeah.
the whole everything's collapsing. We're on the run, and you have this moment where Arnold is shot in the chest, falls down. He's supposed to lose at this moment, but luckily he discovers the mud thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess that would probably be the moment that kind of epitomizes the like that. There's no escape, and so everything like until the mud moment, and you realize the trick to where there's a little bit of hope here.
Right. And I love that because throughout the whole rest of the movie, you're always in the back of your head saying, especially at our age at the time, the good guys always win.
Yeah, good.
So
Yeah, right.
we're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Then he continues to pick people off. More things
Mhm.
keep happening. You're like, man. Then
Like,
Arnold, like you said, he gets
what-
that shot, and you're like,
Yeah, like Apollo Creed. What Apollo Creed went down? What is happening here? Like what? Oh wow! Even Arnold shot in the chest. Oh crap! He can't even beat this thing, and he luckily, all of his skill in the world couldn't be victorious. His whole team that are the awesome. They went and took out all the drug dealers or whatever. Take them all out, totally fine, no casualties. And then now there's a lone survivor because he was lucky.
yes.
Now he's smart. He's paying attention. He learned. And so he got lucky, and then he took that luck and turned it into his strategy to win.
Mhm.
But it's like, oh crap, what is this thing?
Well, and that action sequence of them when they first get into the jungle is pretty badass too.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's a badass action sequence for the film. And they have no casualty.
Well, I guess that's even kind of the brilliance of the movie of like you kick it off and you're just in a cool action movie. You have the expectations of an action movie. The big tough macho men come in and they are the standard big tough action movie, bravado, victorious, kill all the bad guys, one-liners, and we see they're the best at the best, and then one by one they're taken out.
Yes.
And just because we're in an action movie doesn't mean what we're watching isn't horrifying. And if anything, it's dramatically more horrifying because it's not killing off random babysitters. It's killing off the best commandos in the world.
Yes. And it's one of those movies that even as a kid, I would play the video game and be like, this fucker's even impossible on Nintendo. Like, so, we talk about Predator and what this movie means to you. Now, I got to ask, because as horror fans, we do love the kills. It's something that we all gravitate to. Which kill would you say was the one that was most effective for you in Predator?
I mean, I think I'd have to stick with a little bit the one we just talked about a little bit, but the Apollo Creed of you kind of give the arc to this character that he's become. Clearly, he's gonna beat me in a fight, but hey, he's become the bureaucrat. He's working for the wrong side. Brought his friend here under false pretenses, and he has that moment of like, no, I got to send to this. I'm gonna get us out of this, and all the bravado, and he's trying to use his skill, and it's Apollo Creed, and seeing him lifted up, the arm cut off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those images that sticks in your brain of like, oh man, he's going down too this early in the film. Oh man, we're in trouble. I guess there's a whole bunch of each one of these kills makes you go, oh wait, we're in trouble. Wait, that guy just got taken out, and then all of them unloaded all of their guns, including the minigun earlier in the movie. And we didn't hit anything, and you go, oh man, we're in trouble. So I guess all of the kills have a little bit of that sense of like, oh crap, man, we can't do anything right. But I mean, I think that's the one that the imagery just kind of sticks in my mind the most, as you're like, oh.
Yeah, and you still have
arm
the arm shooting.
Go shoot it.
Like, it's insane, man. So Predator is a franchise, so and
Yes.
whenever we talk about a franchise, I always ask, which movie is your favorite movie in the Predator franchise?
Predator. I mean, that's
Okay.
pretty safe, easy answer on that one.
Right.
So, but yeah, Predator's the one that I mean, Predator's a top 10 movie of all time for me. So
Sure. I can agree with that. Um, so another thing we talk about in Hollywood, remakes, requels, sequels, they're all the rage. People love to do
mhm,
that. We've
mhm.
gotten a couple different offshoots of, Alien versus Predator, Predators, things like that. Would you like to see them try to continue? We just had Prey, which I thought was
Mhm.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Would you like to see them continue the franchise and try maybe another offshoot or another reboot of the Predator?
I think Prey tapped into the exact model of what they should do. Of you make it like an anthology series. You think, one of the fun standout scenes in Predators was the one where the Predator faces off with the samurai guy with the sword.
Yeah.
It's one of those you remember those images and you immediately go, Predator in feudal Japan. Like, and you just kind of play that out of all the different warrior societies
Hmm.
fighting a predator. Every one of them, it's the same. A predator's trying to prove himself or whatever. Like it's still same basic idea, but the cultural context, the weaponry, the technology available, the strategies used by the humans, and then likewise the way the predator adapts to that different moment, it's all different.
Right.
And so I think I like you watched the movie Prey and you went, the reason that this is interesting because it delivers the predator experience, the threat, the intensity, but it's so different. Like this, it's not like we're trying to pretend that she's Dutch or like we're not rehashing the first movie, but we
Right.
are delivering that same intense experience. And you can do that with uh let's go cowboys, let's do feudal Japan. Like there's a bunch of ones you could do. And yeah, even as I said that, like you think a Western, we're in the old West in this village, and so they've got 6 shooters and double barrel
Yeah.
shotguns versus a predator, and we're we're doing Rio Bravo with a predator, whatever. I don't know however
Right.
that plays out. I think there's opportunity there, and that's the fun side to it. But I thought that even Predators, I think people, it's a rehash. That's true. It's not nearly as good, but I had a lot of fun with that one. I thought that one worked. So I think there's just a lot of things you could do with it. And maybe if you want to do the epic legacy one, you do one now, find some way to have Dutch come back, old man Dutch to try to do
Yeah.
something with that. So I don't, I'd be fine with an old man Dutch movie. If you got the story for it, there'd be something fun to do with that. There's a lot you could do there that I'd be down with.
'Cause- well,
Not
you
a
could even
follow up to
do.
the Predator. I thought that they went too wacky with the mythology there. I don't need to follow up to that, but pretty much all the other ones I'm game with.
Well, I would love a legacy sequel, picking up
Yeah.
40 years after the events of the first one, and Old Man Dutch is there and he's helping, they find out there's another predator.
Get Glover in there. I say let's get Brody back to Earth. What do you got? All three of those guys teaming up.
Yeah,
Maybe there's something to that of like, like all of our survivors from these films.
I'm down. Put me in. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely in. So we've talked about Predator being a very important movie to you, and
Mhm.
maybe the channel wouldn't be the channel without Predator. So that's a
Mhm.
very important movie and a starting point for you. But before I let you go, I always want to ask because my good little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite scary movie, Sean? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Funny, you should ask Ghostface. It's Scream.
Uh,
Um, so I was in high school, 96 to 2000. That's the original run of the Scream films.
mhm.
And that they kind of defined that era, the Kevin Williamson era, with both the other movies he did as well as the knockoffs. And so those were my formative years of not just late night on cable, but what are the horror movies that my friends and I are going to go see that are, I had the soundtrack for those movies, all of that fun stuff. And then just in general of like characters you enjoy, they're still really good slashers.
Yeah,
Meta commentary before that was a thing. Like before every movie was self-aware and
yeah.
poking fun and all of that stuff. It started all of that. And you're just funny. And then you think the original Scream, the first 10 minutes is just like a short film.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it like not it works. And it also has a star. It's like gigantic movie star Drew Barrymore
Yes.
stars in this short film, the intro to Scream. And it's like a perfect introduction. And then I think, doing a slasher as a whodunit, I think it worked. Like it's just such a great concept. And then it's like I said, it's the one that was that formative era for me. So that's for me my pick of Ghostface.
And I've said this 1,000 times. You look at the movies that came out 93, 94, 95, and then the horror movies that came out 97, 98, 99, and you'll see the impact. I mean, I got a Edvard Munch Scream tattoo because of that movie. Like I went with the original art piece, but it's all because of that film, and it revitalized the horror genre. It put a shot in the arm and really brought horror back to the foreground. It was the what's my age again of horror. It made it cool. It was like Blink made punk rock cool when they started the thing back then. That was Scream. It made horror movies awesome and cool and hip. I sound old as shit when I say it like that, but it really did. And I've always have a deep appreciation and love for Scream. So I know I said this at the beginning, guys, but we are almost to the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. His links are down in the description. Hit the notification bell, as well as follow him on social media so you can stay up to date on maybe he'll be coming to a con somewhere near you and you could go and be able to shake his hand and meet him sometime. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. I think I know the answer, Sean, but I got to ask. We're going to go back to Predator. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing is ranking Predator on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Sean, what would your ranking of Predator be?
I will go with the 5. 5 skulls on that one. Legitimately, it was the first time I watched a movie and was like freaked out, weirded out. And like that, I was not joking when I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go cuddle with my mom." And I was like past the age where that's what was normal. I was like, I don't know what that was. I need my mom to comfort me. And that's my story of being freaked out from a movie when I was young. It's Predator. So if there's a movie that can fall into that category, it has to be that one.
Yeah. And like a lot of times I feel like the starting point for us is always going to be within that 4 to 5 skull range, because that's the first time, you go from watching, an American Tail to Predator, your brain is in for an explosion at that point. So, Sean, please don't go anywhere, my friend. I do have a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.